sell more of their products here than anywhere else in the world, and we don't really need to have a bad show here. Formula One just trying to build an audience here. This is our 6th time at the Brickyard. Team radio for Coulthard.
If that is the case, if there's still indecisions in the team principals, again, if it comes down to my choice, I want to race.
Well, that's interesting. I wonder...
they're still negotiating, obviously.
Yeah, clearly they are. I know, talking to Mark Webber yesterday, there he is just going through frame now in the BMW Williams. They haven't had too many problems. He feels that quite confident that he could race. It seems we have, instead of a clarity of purpose here, a state of confusion. And Coulthard, for one, is wanting to race. McLaren look like they're getting ready for their cars to come in. Well, you know as little about this as we do. Ted Kravitz, maybe you can offer us something.
And that's the same. McLaren, Williams and Renault, I can see where I am at the moment. And they are all clearing 2 Formula One car spaces for each of their cars to come in and retire.
Here comes Alonso, World Championship leader.
You know our plan is for the start. Straight in the pits, please, mate.
Yeah, well, he knows that because he's on his way in already. Looks like teammate Fisichella just in front of him. And I think that McLaren, Toyota, there's the pole sitter, Jarno Trulli, pouring into pits, and just listen to the crowd.
I'm open.
They're stunned, we're stunned. 2 Ferraris on pit straight. Will it be 2 Jordans and 2 Minardis? Some talk the Minardis won't do it. There's a Jordan, and ahead of him is a Minardi. So all the Bridgestone runners are going down to the grid. Coulthard was making a late bid to let me go racing. I want to race. I'm prepared to take the risk. This afternoon, the problem is, if he has a problem and takes out one of the other drivers or whatever, there's some significant implications and ramifications of that. So it looks like we're going to have a 6-car start. 6 cars outside our window here.
Well, the only people I can see that are happy are a bunch of Indians just below us who can see the car to K and may well be on for a podium here this afternoon. Who knows what's going to happen in the US Grand Prix? It's the strangest race ever, and it gets underway now. Predictably, Michael Schumacher leads away from Rubens Barrichello. The 2 Jordans, they're going to make a bit of a battle with Minardi. Looks like we might be losing a Jordan already. I saw smoke earlier, I mentioned it, off the formation lap. The 2 Minardis there battling with the Jordans as well. And what is the reaction of the crowd? Well, it's stunned silence.
I don't know what it says about the 6 teams that have elected to run, to be honest. Maybe they're contractually bound, but you know, they should have joined up and found the solution too. I think they're probably just as guilty here of doing the wrong things as the guys in the pits in many respects, because they've failed to help a solution be found. We're watching a 6-car race. Thankfully, none of them ran into each other in the first turn.
For the record, Michael Schumacher is leading, Rubens Barrichello is second. That's Thiago Monteiro ahead of Christian Albers. Narain Kardakayan is 5th, and Patrick Friesacher is 6th, and on for 3 World Championship points here this afternoon. I guess of some interest is who's going to get the final podium slot, because clearly if the 2 Ferraris are reliable up the front, they're likely to finish 1 and 2. It's 73 laps. It's going to take an awful long time here. But who's going to end up the final podium slot? There's perverse interest in that.
Yeah, there is actually, isn't there? I know some teams put money on Kardakayan yesterday and 1 or 2 others for podiums before all this blew up. So that'll be interesting to see how that one works out.
Yeah, I mean, the primary reason we're here is to actually go racing, same as the drivers. You know, so the drivers are obviously frustrated by, you know, events that have unfolded. So, you know, and we just go along with that. And there's not a lot we can do. So, ultimately, at the end of the day, safety's got to be paramount. And, you know, nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. So, it's just one of those unfortunate things. Just feel sorry for the, you know, the big crowd that's turned up today.
Presumably, when you get home, all your mates down at the pub are going to be asking you about this. How would you explain it to them?
It's very difficult. I mean, obviously, people on you know, sitting at home on their sofas, it's very difficult for them to understand the, you know, the consequences, potential consequences of something when it could go wrong. So it's very difficult. You just got to try and say, look, you know, for safety reasons, we couldn't compete. People will have their own opinions and their own views on it, you know, as I'm sure everybody in the pit lane has as well. So it's one of those things, decisions being made, all teams have agreed to do it, so we've just got to go along with that, I'm afraid.
Thanks for talking to us, Darren. We'll let you get on with the pack-up.
Thank you.
Chief Mechanic of Red Bull Racing there, giving us an insight into how hard they've worked. They came straight from Montreal. They flew down here and worked on the cars. They arrived here on Monday. And as you said, we've been here all week. A lot of preparation goes into this. It's a huge road show, the Formula One road show, and well, today it looks a bit farcical, doesn't it? Frisacker then diving into the pits. He is the fifth man on track. He was. And teammate Christian Albers was just under half a minute behind him. A little bit of problems getting the refueling hose on there onto Frisacker's car. This is being a very long stop. This will hand the fifth place back to Albers. And this is really going to be Minardi's only chance to score points, I think, this season. Same for Jordan in many ways. They really have dropped off the back, both of these teams in Formula One this year. The performance of everybody else has gone up so much. It's been leaving Jordan and Minardi behind, so it's a huge payday for them. But we've already heard from Paul Stoddart that he didn't want to take part in the race with his Minardi team. He wanted to stand firm with the Michelin teams in demanding a chicane, but he says that Jordan broke their promise and insisted that they were going to race and go for the points here today, and that gave him no choice but to race as well, because he couldn't afford to give them an opportunity to get so far ahead of him in the World Championship. We will find out, hopefully, the truth of that situation, exactly who's telling the truth there, but certainly it's another aspect that's deeply regrettable of what is a completely regrettable situation. And you have to look forward from here, Martin, I think, on two counts. The first one is from Michelin's point of view. We've talked a little bit about it. Obviously, they've made a terrible mistake here. They're enormous embarrassment on a corporate level around the world. What could be worse than to create this farce that we see here today? What's their future in Formula One going to be like at a time when all the teams are finally saying, look, if we really want to control costs and speeds in Formula One, we need to have a single tyre supplier. So it really has played, I think, Renault, BMW and the rest, versus the FIA and Bernie Eccleston in terms of greater commercial revenues for the sport being shared more equally with the teams and more say in the virtually empty pit straight. You can see the little computer they have that tells you who everybody is, where they are on the racetrack. That's part of how they decide when to make pit stops, when to feed the cars back out onto the racetrack. A very important device that for the race strategist Ross Brawn there on the pit wall. And as they piled into this first corner with Schumacher coming out of the pit lane, they very nearly took each other off in what is a two-horse race for the win. Barrichello having to take to the grass. He tried to go around the outside. Certainly shown a clean pair of heels to Carter Cahan here. He's going to get his first podium in only his 9th Grand Prix start. And although he'll always know it was under strange circumstances, because the big names of Formula One like Trulli, Raikkonen, Button, Alonso, Montoya were not out on the racetrack on the day. Nevertheless, it's going to be his third place and a trophy in his cabinet, probably the only trophy he'll ever get. And well, you'd have to say that he did beat his teammate on the day. The crowd below us are moving towards the fence now to see the conclusion of this Grand Prix. The booing is rising in volume, and I think it will be certainly at evidence when we have the podium a little bit later on. There's Frisacker in 6th place. As you can see, just all six runners. We've had so far, dare I say it, 100% reliability in this Grand Prix, partly because only for short periods of it were most of the runners really going as fast as they possibly could. But certainly we had a race between Barrichello and Michael Schumacher. There's no doubt about that. And it very nearly put them both off the racetrack. Schumacher is on his last lap. Barrichello has backed off 3.5 seconds behind him. And this is going to be win number 84 of his career for Michael Schumacher. Just coming down the short back straight.
It's gone quite quickly, actually, hasn't it? It's amazing. It's the end of the race. It's been zooming past. And we did bet there's been more boring ones in the past from time to time when McLaren were absolutely dominating it and winning 15 out of 16 races or whatever it was. And when we used to settle in for the afternoon with one set of tyres and a full tank of gas. But anyway, Michael Schumacher then moving towards the end.
Indeed he is. There's been so much controversy in his career. Always he seems to be in the middle of it. This time not necessarily his fault. He once again wins a very controversial Grand Prix. And the Ferrari comes out of that turn 13, which caused the problems. Across the line goes Michael Schumacher to win the 6th and possibly last Grand Prix here at Indianapolis. Rubens Barrichello finishes 2nd. Thiago Monteiro finishes a lap down in 3rd place to take a trophy.
points, and of course what this does is gives them a payback. The booing is not for those two, I don't believe. The booing is for the lack of action in the event.
Well, it was an illustration of how the teams in Formula One simply